If you guys remember, I played a game called Many Faces back in 2020 where I had to survive waves of random enemies on a different stages and many unique bosses.
Come on, did you see that? I literally dodged it when I got hit over there.
By the way, I got all the achievements for that game, so...
Oh my god, who the hell? Bruh.
The developer of Many Faces, Dev, created another game called Squad Killer. For the purpose of this video, I'll call it Squad Ender because YouTube doesn't like the oof word. Back to Squad Killer, Dev asked me if I would like to play the game and review it, which I gladly accepted for being the leech that I am. The game is currently available only on consoles, but it's going to be launched on Steam. So if you wanna play it, 20th of May the game will be officially released on Steam, so go ahead and wishlist it to get notified for when it comes out. I'll also leave the link in the description if you're interested in it. Squad Killer is of the same genre as Many Faces where you have to survive stages filled with enemies and defeating the bosses. While at glance they might seem the same, there are some tweaks, ups and downs which differentiates it from Many Faces. I'd also like to say that this game is not related in any way to Many Faces, it's just in the same category. There are 3 modes you can choose to play, which are the main mode, the boss rush and the stack deck. We'll focus on the main mode for now. Before that, you can also choose to change the game palette color, but it would have been better if it was random in my opinion. Nevertheless, it's good to have choices. Starting the game, your character is thrown into a random stage that will be filled with random enemies, and your goal is to defeat all the enemies and proceed to the next stage. Depending on the enemies and which stages you end up on, you will have to try different tactics in order to clear out the room. Most of the times, it's better to stay on top so that the random projectiles won't hit you while you're not looking from down below. Alright, I like it. So, oh god, oh please don't. I don't wanna die now. I've spent too much time and I already finally got something actually good for myself. This freaking game. Our protagonist, which for some reason looks like an Among Us character.
Among Us. Bruh.
I know Among Us is not funny anymore, guys. Shut up. Okay, I like it. I mean, I don't, but shut up. Have 2 ways of dealing damages. Shooting projectiles with your Nerf gun and throwing grenades. Most of the time you'll be shooting and saving your grenades because you can only have 1 at a time and it's better used against the bosses in the game. The grenade explosion is also kind of hard to time it right, so the enemies will just walk through it before it explodes. Very funny game. You should also pay attention to your health since healing items in this game is really scarce and you'll end up losing before fighting the first boss. You can also jump and dash to avoid enemy projectiles or using the tables as a shield to block the enemy attacks. Although they still have a chance to hit you somehow. How did you hit me? When you dash, you also destroy their projectiles so you can make some free space to move around freely. Just time your dashes right because you don't want to end up beside the enemies and lose some unnecessary HP there.
You failed!
Among Us.
The enemies spawn from the windows, and a word of advice, stay away from them, please. The amount of time I got hit because an enemy immediately attacked me at the speed of light was just Also, Dev, please add glass breaking sound effect. I mean, look at how good this is. Also, did you know that you can aim in this game? So you have to get on the same level as your enemy to be able to shoot them. This works well most of the time, but it also makes the game harder than it should be. At some point, I'll find myself chasing after the enemies, especially the flying ones, so I can defeat them. Yeah, let's give 3 flying enemies to a guy that cannot even aim his gun, so he has to like dodge and play tag with them. You know how to frustrate me, game. You really do know. But it doesn't apply to most of the bosses in this game, since their attacks are randomized, so if I get a bad RNG, I'll have to wait after multiple attacks just for them to descend on my level and deal some damage to it. Take this boss for example. I had to wait this long just for it to teleport on my level to attack it. While it's not something really frustrating, but if that boss never used that specific attack to land down, I would have been stuck there for hours and still will lose regardless. If you survive, you'll be able to purchase a power-up with the money you gain from killing the enemies. And this part of the game is what decides whether you'll be able to win or lose. There are many kinds of upgrades you can purchase, like the explosive ammos or enemies exploding upon death. Most of the time, 2 out of the 3 items available to purchase, you won't be able to afford it because you don't have enough money.
Smells like broken here.
I'm not entirely sure how the drop system works in this game, but the money you get is totally random. So you have a large amount at one run or pretty much broke at the other run. The money is also reduced if the enemy is destroyed inside the walls or platforms. Please? Please? And if I shoot him in the wall, the money doesn't even drop. Alright. With no money, you'll be stuck with a passive item that won't be helpful to you in surviving the other stages. In my opinion, either the power-up items should be charged at the same amount of money you currently have, or the enemy should be dropping more money on default rather as a purchasable power-up. Without a powerful power-up, you'll die pretty much on the first boss before making any progress. Speaking of the first boss, the bosses are spawned randomly, so sometimes you'll get a fairly easy boss or near endgame boss like this spider here. Spider-Man rarely goes down on your level, it shoots projectiles that blocks your platforms to stand on, and it also spawns small spiders that attacks you. At that point you are better off restarting the whole run because, like I mentioned earlier, with low health, low damage and poor power-ups, it's near impossible to survive the incoming stages because the enemies are tougher with more HP. The game is heavily based on RNG and I do enjoy that. It creates a unique sense of repetition with different circumstances from the other playthroughs that I had. But Squad Killer doesn't manage to balance that well. There was only one time where I could get to the final boss and I still lost. You could argue that I just sucked and should be better at playing the game, but if I had to play until I can get all the good power-ups to help me survive the next stages, there really is a problem that needs to be fixed. This is also another problem because by dying over and over again at the first stages and the first bosses, I've already seen every stages because they are randomized and every enemy the game had to offer. I also didn't have the chance to use the other powers because first, they're impossible to purchase and second, it is better off purchasing damage ups and health ups only in order to survive the next stages. One thing to mention is that I got a new boss after fighting the last boss despite losing to it. Which makes me question if it was my luck of never encountering that boss, or it's just because I had the chance of fighting the final boss once. What else do we have here? Oh yeah, the modes. Since I haven't finished the main mode, I wasn't able to play the other remaining ones. I apologize for that. Thankfully, the mods do explain themselves, so in the boss rush mode, survive through 6 bosses without any power-ups, which is pretty much impossible if we put into mind everything I've mentioned about the power-ups and resources to fight the bosses. I'm pretty sure we'll die at the second boss at most. And the stack deck mode, where you start with 7 random power-ups, which in my perspective, if you get all the damage ups and health ups, it'll be the easy mode of the game to play on most of the time. So, do I recommend playing the game? Of course I do, it's in the contract I signed up. I'm just kidding, please don't sue me, Wanzungdev, I'm serious. With many different stages, enemies and bosses, plus the random power-ups you get after surviving the stages, you will always have a new way to play the game. Either carefully observe your enemies and strike them down, or obliterate every single living being you see on your screen. And thanks to the RNG manipulation, you hardly ever find yourself in the same situation twice, and always have to think your next move in order to beat the game. The only thing the game really needs to fix is the balance in order for normal casual players to have a better chance of defeating the game, rather than depending on their lucks. If I had to compare Squad Killer and Many Faces, I do believe Many Faces is fairer to play with the power-ups manages to balance the difficulty of that game, and when I lose I didn't feel like that it was an unfair loss that the game gave to me, but rather that I just made some flaws and need to learn from it. Overall, Squad Killer is a fun game to play if you want to kill some time and enjoy a little bit of difficulty that it throws at you. If you guys did enjoy me reviewing this game, consider following Wanzungdev on his social media like Twitter and stuff. He also made a video of himself playing the game on his YouTube channel, which I'll leave the link in the description if you would like to check it out. I like to say that he didn't tell me to mention this stuff, I just enjoy the games he makes, and honestly, just go support him. There is no reason not to. 20th May, go wishlist Squad Killer on Steam and give it a try. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I am really taking my time to actually do some actual good videos rather than uploading daily, so I hope you enjoyed this one. Check out the description for Squad Killer and Wangzung Dev's social medias. And finally, Wangzung Dev, please add glass breaking sound effect. Check out the description for how